Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Modern Warfare in Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the brand new FiNN LMG. This weapon is unlocked for free by getting one melee kill with an LMG in at least 7 different matches. The fastest way to do this is to kit the Holger LMG for speed, put on the breacher device, which gives you one-hit melees, and back out after one melee. All of the other challenges would punish you if you left the match early, but this one seems to not do that. So just melee somebody, quit, re-queue, and you can do this in under 10 minutes, which is really easy. And this episode took a long time to make because the FiNN LMG is an insanely complicated weapon with 2 different damage profiles, 2 different ammo types, and 2 different ADS modes, all of which radically change the weapon, and you can mix and match them. So I kind of have a lot to go over today. But one thing I do want to go over is that you can use creator code DRIFTOR for your in-game purchases now. Call of Duty finally has a creator code. It's very similar to the Epic Games and Fortnite creator code. My code is DRIFT0R, as in like the number 0 on the pad down there. And I get 5% of any purchases that you guys make. Again, very much so like the Fortnite Support a Creator program. So I'd appreciate it if you would use code DRIFTER on your microtransactions, and that does change the nature of my business relationship with Activision, such that anytime I mention this code, I have to tell you that they have technically sponsored this video. And if I don't want them sponsoring a video, I don't mention the code. I'm gonna have to work on disclosures and a lot of stuff like that going forward and kind of smooth this out. But honestly, I'm just super happy to have a creator code, and I hope that some of you decide to use it. And now let's take a look at the initial set of stats for the FiNN LMG, which instead of damage, I actually want to talk about the 2 types of ammo. If you use the 5.56 CT ammo conversion, it'll slow your muzzle velocity by about 50% or roughly cut it in half, which is going to be noticeable. And if you use the 5.56 CT ammo plus the adverse barrels, it can slow down muzzle velocity as much as 75%, which you will immediately notice in both multiplayer and especially in Warzone, and it can be quite painful. So in order to really visually show this, let's take a look at it in my editing program so we can go frame by frame. This is just one of those things that's easier to show in my editing program. What I have right now is the regular FiNN LMG with the regular 5.56 NATO ammo in it, and I've trimmed it to where this is the very first frame that the bullet shoots. And my target, which is about 75 meters away, will take a hit marker in about 4 frames. So it takes about 4 frames for the standard bullet to travel from the taxi cab area to the archway on Anya Palace. The next thing is the first frame where I've fired from the same weapon but with the adverse barrel attachment on there. And you can see when we go up to 4 frames, we do not have a hit, but at 5 frames, we do have a hit. So the adverse barrel has slowed down your muzzle velocity or your bullet velocity at least a little bit. Now, as these ranges get longer, it'll get harder. This one is the CT ammo, and the CT ammo does a pretty similar thing, but longer. My goodness, actually, that's not very similar at all. That's up to 8 frames, which is double the length of the original. Again, the original gets a hit marker in 4 frames. If you're running the CT ammo, it takes almost twice as long for the bullet to travel that far. And then this one is very scary. This is the adverse barrel and the CT ammo, and I'm gonna have to come pretty far forward. You'll see that it actually takes 15 whole frames to get a hit marker, and that is a quarter of a second, and that is something that you absolutely will notice in game and will feel really bad. So yeah, that's pretty brutal. That's not really optimal for my guns. That's not what I would want to have on my setup. So for these weapons, I'm very careful about equipping the adverse barrels or the CT ammo because I would like my bullets to travel and hit their destination eventually instead of just kind of feeling like I'm lagging, which is ultimately how this will feel to you because it takes so long for the bullets to get there. Alright, so now let's talk about the FiNN LMG's damage. It has 2 different damage profiles, one for the regular barrel, and then the second one for when you put the adverse barrel attachment on there. It actually changes your damage, and uniquely, it doesn't seem to have a headshot multiplier. So for your regular barrel and regular ammo and all that kind of stuff, it'll deal 36 damage per headshot or upper chest shot, and 27 damage at long ranges. If you're hitting somebody in the stomach or the limbs, that can be 28 to 21, so we only have 2 damage damage areas. It's kind of like the player's divided in half. Anything lower than breast is going to be dealing less than optimal damage. Now, you can put on the CT ammo and it doesn't change your damage, but putting on any of the adverse barrels will change your damage and rate of fire. The adverse barrel damage for the head and chest is 28 to 22, so basically the stomach and limbs damage from before, and our new stomach and limbs damage drops down to 22 to 17, which can be kind of brutal, actually. And I want to say again that the 5.56 CT ammo does not change your damage. It only affects bullet velocity, so only the adverse barrel can change your damage. So with your normal barrel, you're looking at 3 to 4 shots to kill, and I usually bet on 4. And for the adverse barrel, you're looking at 4 to 5 shots to kill, and for this particular instance, I'm usually betting on 4 instead of the 5, and we'll talk about why later because the ranges on these are quite different as well. So the regular rate of fire for regular barrels is 630 rounds per minute, which is kind of average from LMGs. That's pretty normal. That's kind of what you would expect from a light machine gun. It's nothing too crazy. However, if you put the adverse barrel on there, it goes up to 1,000 rounds per minute. I want to say that again. The adverse barrel has a 1,000 RPM fire rate, which is insanely fast for any gun in Modern Warfare or Call of Duty in general, much less a light machine gun. So that's a pretty nutty improvement. However, it doesn't help your multiplayer time to kill very much. If you do your TTK calculations for 100 health enemy in multiplayer, you'll find that the normal barrel kills them at 190 milliseconds, and the adverse barrel will kill them in 180 milliseconds, so not significantly faster, not even a whole frame there. The adverse barrel will be a little bit less punishing if you miss shots because your follow-up shots will be quicker. Compared to all the other weapons in multiplayer, the multiplayer time to kill for the FiNN LMG is average to maybe a little bit faster than average. It's nothing crazy, it's not super melty, it can't headshot insta-dump truck people. It's not that crazy for multiplayer, but let's take a look at Warzone at 250 HP. And the normal barrel will kill in 660 milliseconds in Warzone, which is probably a little bit on the slower end of normal for that mode. It's clustered closer to the middle, but on the slower side of all the weapons. However, the adverse barrel will kill an enemy at 480 milliseconds in Warzone, fully armored and everything, and that is really fast. That puts it in probably like top 5, definitely top 10 fastest killing weapons in Warzone. I want to really clarify that the adverse barrels absolutely shred people in Warzone, and for that kind of mode, DPS is very important, so it gives this weapon a big advantage. It's one of the fastest killing things in Warzone that's fully automatic that won't be hard to use. I mean, if you pull out some of the goofier semi-auto, like double headshots and like the striker with the burst fire and stuff like that, not many full autos truly compete with this. When it comes to choosing your ammo types, as we discussed earlier, the ammo can be very punishing, the CT ammo for your range. So what I do is I use the regular 5.56 NATO ammo if I want to have a regular, like a long-range Bruin-like combat, and I'll use the CT ammo and the adverse barrel if I want to go for like short range and very melty. In general though, I started avoiding the CT ammo. We'll talk about its stats and stuff later, but it became so noticeable and so problematic that a lot of the gameplay in this video doesn't use that ammo conversion. You have choices of either 75 or 100 rounds, and you will absolutely burn through it very fast, regardless of which barrel you're running. It's a big spray gun. You're going to want to spray with it. I want to spray with it. Everybody's spraying people with it. You're going to be reloading a lot. Sleight of hand is going to be your friend. Both of the recoil patterns on the FiNN LMG are manageable. Honestly, I thought that the adverse barrel would just be completely like hosing the sky, can't hit anything, but it was really kind of workable. But the normal barrel is going to be more accurate. It is going to be noticeably easier to use. The adverse barrel is like workable in a kind of, if you get used to it, professional gamer sort of practice it kind of way. Right off the bat, the normal ammo is going to be far easier to use, though it'll have the slower time to kill. Iron sights on this weapon are quite nice. If you like them, you don't really need any optics. I'm running optics because I have trouble with the muzzle flash on this weapon, but I can't say that the iron sights aren't just fantastic. And since it can be converted into the chainsaw, the hipfire box is fairly tight for a light machine gun. It's a little bit tighter than the LMG, and you put the chainsaw attachment on there, it's even better. Let's talk about ranges on this bad boy. My gosh, we're like 8, 9, 10 minutes in here and we haven't even hit ranges and ADS times. So the base range, and for all of these, we're going to be using the base barrels, which have a different range than the regular. So this is a 3-shot kill range with a base barrel, 26 meters. If you put the 5.56 CT ammo on there, that's 23 meters. So not a big drop in your damage range, so that's good. The XRK Pro Twist Barrel will get you 34 meters, which is a noticeable improvement. XRK Long Shot only a little bit more at 37, and a very minimal change for the FTAC VC8 Harrier Barrel, which is 25, and that's basically the same as your base. Now, when we compare barrels, do keep in mind that this is different damages, different shots to kill, and different ranges, but when you take a look at the adverse barrels, their maximum damage range, which to be fair is 4 shots to kill more than 3, but still a faster time to kill. The factory adverse barrel will give you a 34 meter maximum range. Pro Twist adverse barrel is 47, so very impressive. The long shot adverse barrel will give you 54 meters of range, which is really good for this type of weapon. And the Harrier adverse barrel will give you 32 meters of range, which again is not too shabby. I personally prefer these. I feel that my ranged engagements are at least more consistent because the total range is bigger and the time to kill is more, even if I do need more shots to kill and the bullets may travel a little bit slow. So my opinion about the ranges on this weapon is that the regular barrel attachments are pretty lackluster when it comes to range. However, the adverse barrel ranges aren't bad. You do lose some bullet velocity, which is kind of annoying, but the actual damage numbers over range are not shabby at all for an LMG. But let's take a look at how all of this different stuff will affect your aim down sights times. The base ADS time on this weapon is 416 milliseconds, which is pretty normal for an LMG. That's kind of the same as most of the others. The 5.56 CT ammo for 75 rounds is 333 milliseconds, so you get a pretty significant improvement in your ADS time if you go that route. The 100 rounds will be 2 more frames up there at 366, and the TAC laser does a massive, just colossal reduction in your ADS time down to 300 milliseconds. So that's a really strong attachment in and of itself. When it comes to the regular barrels, the Pro Twist barrel will ADS in 366, so not too shabby. The XRK Long Shot doesn't really seem to affect your aim down sights time at all, so that's nice. And the FTAC VC8 is 333, which is again pretty good bit faster than base ADS. Now, the adverse barrels and no stock are a little bit faster. Factory adverse is 383. Pro Twist is 366, Long Shot adverse is 400, Harrier adverse is 300, and no stock is 333. I just didn't know where else to put that one. Printout times for this weapon are normal and fast. The base one is 333 milliseconds, so that's kind of normal for LMGs. However, the XRK Chainsaw will cut that down to 216 milliseconds, which is quite fast for an LMG, but hopefully you're not hip firing it unless you have it in the chainsaw configuration. The FiNN LMG minimum handling stats for aim down sights time is 250 milliseconds, so I can't make it very much faster than 250 milliseconds ADS, and the TAC laser will do the bulk of the work for that one. And the long and short of the adverse barrels and how they affect your ADS times is that they will shave about 1 to 2 frames off of your aim down sights time depending on the barrel and depending on the various configurations that you have. If you're really concerned about ADS times, TAC laser is going to be your friend. That's very important. And your ADS speed with the chainsaw attachment, which prevents you from fully aiming down sights, only affects how long it takes to tighten up your hipfire spread box, which is really not that important and not how you're going to be using this weapon. So I don't think ADS speed for the chainsaw attachment mode is particularly helpful on in-depth. So when it comes right down to it, the FiNN LMG is a very interesting weapon. It's viable in multiplayer and Warzone, but in multiplayer, it's ultimately going to be a little bit more mediocre. Like, it's fun, but you're primarily going to be dependent on getting really good flanks or abusing hipfire mechanics and mobility. When it comes to multiplayer, the ADS version of this gun isn't very fun. It's all about the chainsaw. It's all about flanking somebody in ground war or these little maps like Shipment. It's all about the higher mobility and like knee sliding in and hip firing them and doing a lot of stuff with hip fire. And it's fun and it's viable and you can do it. Not the most competitive weapon. However, the FiNN LMG has the potential to be both very good, very popular, and a very meta weapon in Warzone for a lot of reasons. And the number one reason is the adverse barrels really do shred people. Those things tear people up. Now, the only downside is that that's only going to apply up close and medium range. The adverse barrels will be noticeably more difficult to use than the other LMGs if you're going for long range shots, and those long range shots are important in Warzone. It has a time to kill similar to the MG34, but all of the handling stats and honestly even the recoil are going to be better. but the bullets just kind of fall off at range, which is really, really miserable. With that being said, you don't have to use the adverse barrel. You can use the regular barrel and the regular 5.56 NATO ammo, and you get pretty good range on that. It's pretty comparable to the other LMGs, just the time to kill is nothing special. The recoil can be really low, and it's really more of a matter of what you're interested in. I would say with the normal barrels, you could kit this weapon out to be something of a Bruin replacement. I have two classes to recommend to you here at the end of In Depth. Number one is the multiplayer chainsaw FiNN LMG fun class. You want to use the XRK chainsaw stock, the FTAC VC8 Advantage barrel, tac laser, monolithic suppressor because you're not aiming down sights, it doesn't really hurt anything, and sleight of hand because you're going to be reloading crazy fast on this particular weapon. Now, the next one is a little bit more particular for Warzone. You're going to want to run the VLK or Cronin sight, depending on which one you like. The XRK long shot advantage, which will give you a little bit more range and a little bit of recoil reduction. It's kind of nice. Monolithic suppressor, sleight of hand, and tac laser. And if you don't like the XRK long shot advantage because the bullets are too slow or it kicks too much, you can swap that out for the regular XRK long shot and take the lesser time to kill for a much better handling weapon. But that is exactly how I would use it in Warzone. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of In Depth. Sorry that it took so long. There was just a ton of stuff to unlock and go through with this weapon on top of the new Call of Duty launching, on top of the Call of Duty creator code watching, which, by the way, it's Code Drifter, just like this channel, DRIFT0R. You can enter it in the game, and any of your purchases will benefit me by 5% of whatever you've spent. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.